Right now, in South Korea, the government is legally forcing public institutions to buy products from specific people, based on their gender rather than the quality of what they are actually selling. If you are a man running a business with a better product and a lower price, you can be legally pushed aside because of a law called Article 9 of the Act on Support for Female-Owned Enterprises. This isn't just a suggestion or some polite guideline for diversity, it is a hard-coded mandate from the top. Every single local office, every state-run power plant, and every government agency is now required to hit a quota for buying from female-owned companies. Think about what that actually means for a second. It means the standard rules of work and competition have been thrown out the window. The people in charge have decided that the identity of the owner matters more than the value of the work. This is the reality on the ground, and it's only the beginning of a system that is systematically building a protected class while everyone else is told to just deal with it. But why would they actually demand this? Why would a group that is already graduating from top universities at higher rates than men and living in one of the most developed, safest nations on the planet insist they need this kind of state-sponsored help? When you strip away all the fancy talk about justice, you find the most blunt, low-level human instinct there is: a raw resource grab. It is much easier to take something that is guaranteed by the law than it is to win it in an open market. This is a parasitic drive for a bigger piece of the financial pie at someone else's expense. By framing themselves as a vulnerable group, these business owners and professionals can skip the line. It's a way to monetize a feeling of grievance even when the bank accounts and the law books say the exact opposite. They aren't fighting for a fair race, they are fighting to have the finish line moved 20 feet closer for them, while the men are told to run with weights on their ankles. So how does a society that prides itself on being hyper-competitive and meritocratic let this happen? Why does the public just sit there and watch the engine of their economy get clogged with these quotas? The cultural context is a total mess of old tribal habits and modern politics. South Korea went from a poor farming nation to a high-tech giant in a single generation, and the culture hasn't caught up. Politicians are desperate for a reliable voting bloc, and they've realized that the female vote is a prize they can buy with other people's careers. They pass these laws to secure their own power for the next election cycle, not caring if they destroy the idea of hard work in the process. At the same time, the society is stuck in a weird neo-Confucian loop. It wants the prestige of looking progressive like a Western country, but it still treats women like they are a fragile group that needs constant protection. They want the modern paycheck, but they still want the traditional safety net. What happened when they got exactly what they asked for? What does this equality actually look like in a real office or a real factory? This is where the hypocrisy becomes impossible to ignore. In the halls of power and the air-conditioned offices, the quotas are in full swing. Women are being pushed into management and research roles in science and technology just to hit a target ratio. But go look at the night shifts, look at the hazardous waste sites, the high-risk security roles, or the heavy lifting on construction projects. It's still almost exclusively men doing that work. In government offices, male employees are frequently forced to handle all the night security and weekend shifts, because their female colleagues are exempt or protected. You have a system where the rewards are shared by quota, but the burdens are still assigned by gender. It's a pick-and-choose version of fairness where you take the title and the salary, but leave the dirty work for the guys who weren't diverse enough to get the promotion. And what happens when someone actually points this out? What happens when a man dares to say that the map doesn't match the territory? Look at what happened in Ulang County. A male employee pointed out the obvious unfairness in how shifts and duties were being assigned, and the system didn't stop to listen. It didn't look at the data, it purged him. The system has built a defense shield against the truth. Laws that were supposed to stop people from being treated unfairly are now being used as a weapon to silence anyone who notices the new state-sanctioned favoritism. It's a total collapse of common sense. The government is subsidizing mediocrity by guaranteeing market shares for companies that might not even be the best at what they do. If you tell people they will win just for showing up with the right identity, they stop trying to be the best. Quality drops, innovation dies, and the people who actually have the talent start looking for the exit. So what is the result of all this social engineering? What is the actual fallout? You are seeing a generation of young men who have completely checked out. They look at a system that treats them like second-class citizens in terms of rights, but first-class citizens when it comes to duties, and they've decided they aren't playing anymore. This is the birth of the exiled male. They are walking away from the dating market, the marriage market, and the ambition market. Why would you kill yourself working 80 hours a week to build a society that tells you that you are an oppressor, while it actively steals your promotion to give it to a quota hire? This is the same reason why the birth rate is crashing through the floor. You cannot have a functioning society when half the population feels like the social contract. has been ripped up and thrown in their face. It's a resentment trap that is tearing the country apart from the inside. This isn't just a local problem, it's a version of a mistake we've seen all over the world, just dialed up to 11. Look at Sweden, where they tried to prioritize snow plowing for sidewalks because more women used them, while the main roads where the men drove were left for later. It caused a total transport collapse and a massive spike in injuries. South Korea is doing that same thing, but instead of snow plowing, they are doing it with the entire economy, the legal system, and the future of the youth. They are throwing their most experienced sailors overboard in the middle of a storm because they want the crew to look a certain way for a photo op. It's a suicidal way to run a ship. The most ironic part of this whole farce is the female-owned status itself. The law doesn't care if you are a struggling single mother or the daughter of a billionaire. If a rich heiress opens a boutique with her father's money, and she gets the same government priority as someone who actually needs the help. It's a total joke. The system is being used by the powerful to get even more power, all while using the language of the vulnerable. It is a mockery of real struggle, a nation that achieved a miracle of development. Through merit and grit is now slowly strangling itself with the silken cords of this benevolent discrimination. The outcome is inevitable because you cannot override the laws of human nature and math. If the cost of being a man in this society, the military service, the night shifts, the legal disadvantages, outweighs the reward of participating, people will stop participating. They will lie flat or they will leave. The state will be left with a bloated bureaucracy of people who are hired for their identity rather than their ability. And they won't be able to keep the lights on in a high-tech world. You can't build a future on the ruins of half your people's dreams. South Korea is holding a bicycle in a race and complaining that the wind is blowing the wrong way, while the guys running barefoot next to them are being told they have the unfair advantage. It's a broken compass in a violent storm, and the people holding it are too busy arguing about the correct gender of the captain to notice they are heading straight for the rocks. Fuel the truth at dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.